Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to have a more casual, informal, hopefully personal chat about being a full-time freelance illustrator while also being a parent. And if this is the first video of mine that you've seen, or if you're new to my channel, my name is Kendyll and I am a commercial illustrator. I do work for magazines and for like food packaging and product illustration. And like most illustrators or even most creative people and artists in general, I do a lot of other things too. So I also, have a shop and I teach on Skillshare and all of that. Have my hands in a lot of pies in general. And I am a mother to a 19-month-old baby girl named Penelope. If you already have been watching my channel, you'll know that my past several videos, I've done a series of 4 vlogs trying to get kind of real and honest with the experience of parenthood and freelance life at the same time. And I wanted to do a sit-down video to kind of go over things more in depth and answer some of your questions. I have a feeling it's going to be kind of long, so we'll see. It might get broken up into a couple. So that is the setup. And before I dive in, I always forget to do these things until the end. So I want to thank everybody who left such sweet comments on the vlogs. There was so much, there was like a real sense of community and people sharing their experiences and feeling connected, and I felt connected to what you all shared. So yeah, I just want to thank everybody who was vulnerable there and thoughtful and let me know how things resonated with you, or even if you weren't a parent yet, but you're a freelancer or an illustrator and you're thinking of becoming a parent and kind of worried about how it will all fit together, how it will all work. Yeah, so just thank you for taking part in the community that way, and I appreciate it. And I'm trying to reply to all of the comments. If I haven't gotten to yours yet, I'm sorry. I hopefully will in the coming weeks. And then I also want to thank my patrons. I have, the last couple months I've been on Patreon again and have been building up a supportive base there. So thank you so much to the folks who are supporting me in that way. You have made it possible for me to do this kind of series, this kind of video. And yeah, I'm very grateful. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just dive in by sharing a little bit of backstory or my experience with being a parent so far. So Penelope is 19 months old and she was born in January of 2017. I had an easy pregnancy, easy delivery, well, as easy as it can be, a good delivery, no big issues. And for me, I feel like for a lot of women, the pregnancy and the delivery is kind of like, whoa, it's the wake up call of how hard it's going to be. But for me, that didn't really come until Penelope was born. Everything up until that point was pretty smooth. And then after she was born, I had some pretty significant challenges. I didn't officially get diagnosed with it, but now I'm pretty sure I did have some postpartum depression, and mainly because it was just like such a big shock to the system to go from, having no demands other than the demands that I put on myself, really, because, I work as a freelancer, so I'm my own boss. So I guess, yeah, my demands and client demands, but still, like, to go from that to having this little tiny creature that is just utterly and completely dependent on you for everything. And then to make it more challenging, Penelope had a lot of feeding issues. So there was some real difficulty with nursing, and then she had a hard time gaining weight. And I'm a very determined person. And so I just pushed through with the nursing difficulties, and I think that kind of contributed to the postpartum depression as well. I won't get into all of that here. If you want to hear another video about it, I guess I can make that. But yeah, anyway, that was very challenging. It was very challenging for like 4 months, and they tell you like, oh, it'll be hard for 2 weeks, or that's what the people at the hospital said, but it was really hard for like 4 months. So yeah, that I think made it hard for me to feel like I was getting my feet on the ground or getting a like good sense of what to expect. And unbeknownst to me, Penny had a dairy sensitivity, which I should have guessed because I also am somewhat sensitive to dairy. And so even though I was only having a little bit of it, that was causing problems for her with respect to like her weight gain and everything. And then she cried a lot again for those first 4 months because of just being uncomfortable. So yeah, it was really difficult to sleep or even just feel like I had a good rhythm because she was so high need initially. And I took 8 weeks off of client work, so I had some kind of ongoing clients that I let know ahead of time that this was going to happen, and we planned around it, and that all went smoothly. And then I had some other stuff that like new projects, if new projects came up during that time, I just kind of punted them down the road. But yeah, I took 8 weeks off. So even after I went back after 8 weeks, that did start to help, like having again, like more of a rhythm, but still things were just so all over the place. And like, if you're nursing, it's just constant. And if you're not nursing, then you're pumping. And so honestly, like the first 6 months in my mind are kind of a blur because it was just, I just felt like I could barely keep my head above water. And then trying to like figure out any sort of a sense of a schedule or rhythm was really, really challenging. And that's my experience. I know other people that like love the baby months and feel like those first few months are easier to work in because you can just bring the baby into the studio with you and they'll sleep. But Penny was never a great napper. And yeah, so that little dream I had, like I remember when I was pregnant with her, I was like, oh yeah, I'll just come into the studio and I'll put her in her little basket and I'll get work done and it'll be great. We won't need any childcare. I'll just like somehow manage to do everything. And that was like very quickly, that dream was very quickly shattered. And I realized like, oh, you know, at least with the way that I work, with the way that I am, and with the way that Penny is, this just isn't going to work. So, those first 6 months were extremely challenging. I feel like I'm not even expressing it very well because it's so disorganized in my mind. But yeah, it was around 8 weeks, so 2 months old, that we started having some help and some childcare come in 3 days a week for like 4 hours each time. But we didn't even have like a really set schedule because her naps were always fluctuating. And so I was trying to make sure that we would have the babysitters when she was awake so that I could also work when she was napping. So those first 6 months, the pieces were constantly moving and constantly shuffling. The second 6 months, and especially after she hit a year, things definitely started to get easier because we had figured out like her dietary needs, and she was no longer crying. She became like a very happy baby. And she started napping on a more consistent schedule. And then eventually she started sleeping through the night, like around a year. So all of those things made a big difference. But in terms of like work, the thing that made the biggest shift was when she started having a more predictable schedule. So we could say, all right, like this is when we're going to have the childcare. This is when she'll nap. So I had a good sense of how much time I had during the week to get work done. Yeah, and overall it's just gotten, for me, it's gotten better and better the older she's gotten. So I think I'm definitely more of like a kid person than a baby person. So yeah, that's my overall general experience so far. I'm happy to talk about any of those things in more detail, but I want to try to get onto some other topics so that I don't just spend this entire video babbling. So throughout all of that first year, I guess first year and a half, I feel like I've been kind of thinking about and reflecting on and trying to put language to some of the really unique challenges that exist for people who are freelancing and also trying to start a family. And I'm still a relatively new parent, so I don't have all that much experience on this, but some of the kind of tension points that I've noticed so far are things that actually I was aware of before Penelope was born, and kind of felt some tension around even then, but they've just been magnified since having her. And one of those tension points is that it is great to have a job that I love. I'm so thankful for it. I'm thankful every day that I get to do this job and pursue this kind of work. But because of that, because I love my job so much, I always want to be doing it. And that's a great, it's a great problem to have, but it is a real challenge. The challenge that I am always wanting to be, I always want to paint. I always want to be making work. I always want to think about what I can do next and what other creative problems I can solve, and what else I can make. Like my brain is always thinking of that, and my heart always wants to go in that direction. And something before I had Penelope, something I heard people talk about was like, oh, the second you have a child, you just realize that nothing else in the world matters, and that child is all you want to be with. All you want to do is be the most awesome mom 24/7, and you won't even want to work anymore after you have a child. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised that, when Penelope was born, and especially in those first few months that were so challenging, I was excited to work again. I didn't have any of that feeling at all of like, oh, I never want to work. I just want to be a mom 24/7. And I'm just sharing my own experience. If you did feel that way, if you did want to leave your job that you loved and be a mom 24/7, that's awesome for you. I just didn't feel that way, and I hadn't heard anybody else really talk about that, that you could have this job that you loved, and I don't know, beyond even a job, like a vocation or whatever, that you just felt so fit for and that you loved, and then also have a baby, and that there was going to be real tension. I guess I just wasn't expecting that I was going to want to be a mom and want to spend that time with Penelope and love her so much, obviously, but I didn't have that sense of forget my job. I never want to go back. I just want to be with my kid. So yeah, always feeling pulled in multiple directions. And related to that, it's really good to be able to work at home. I love working at home, but that means that I have had to get really good at making boundaries for myself, because I am always in the place that I work. So I always have that sense of wanting to work, of wanting to be, of wanting to be working, and I'm in the place where I can do that physically. So it's been a real challenge to try to compartmentalize and boundary myself so that when I'm not working, I can just focus on Penelope and just be with Penelope and be content and enjoy doing that. And I feel like if I had a studio outside of the home, that would be at least a little bit easier, because when I would leave the space, I would just be all right, well, my stuff is there. I haven't brought work with me. There's nothing I can do about it. Whereas here, I'm just constantly surrounded by it. And this is something that is an ongoing struggle for me. I don't feel like I have that figured out yet. I think it's going to take me a long time. I probably will always have some sense of that difficulty, but it's definitely real. It's a real issue. And then these are all compounded by the fact that as not just a creative person, but another significant personality trait for me is idealism. And I don't even think of it like perfectionism. I mean, I am somewhat of a perfectionist, but it's more if it's a thing that I care about, then I want it to be the most ideal, beautiful, perfect form possible. I don't even really know what the right word exactly for that is, but what it ends up looking like is that I want to do my job the most in the ideal way that I can. I want to be great at it, and I want to put everything into it and just leave it all on the table. And it's the same with Penelope, and it has been the same with like cooking as well. Like those are things that I care about. Like I just want to do it in the most amazing way possible. And again, over the last year and a half, what I've been learning is that's just not possible. And it wasn't possible before Penelope either, but I feel like I was able to keep the illusion alive more than I have been once I became a mom. You know, once I became a mom, I have just like, it's been a real wake-up call that like, yeah, it's not possible to do absolutely everything in that ideal, perfect form. So I'm learning to live with these other challenges, the things that are kind of taking up some of my mental and emotional space. Like I said, I don't feel like I have an answer yet, but it is something that I am thinking about. I'm always interested to hear other people's experiences with. I feel like we could have a whole other conversation about this in another year after I have had some more experience with parenthood, but that's just kind of my initial first take. All right, so now I'm going to transition away from sharing my experience to, well, this is still going to be sharing my experience, I guess, but I'm going to transition away from talking about the challenges to talking about how I approach some of these challenges. And I can already tell, I'm watching the timer on my camera here, that this video is long. This is already about 20 minutes, I think. So I'm gonna end this video here, and I'm gonna do another video that will cover more of the like practical how I deal with it elements. And if you're watching this right now, that is already published. I'll have it linked in the description box, and it'll be linked at the end of the video, so you can just go right into part 2. All right, thanks for watching. And yeah, again, if you're a parent or you're thinking about being a parent, I would love to hear your experiences too. So be sure to leave those in the comments, and I will see you in part 2. Bye.